Everybody in Donald Trump's White House is in a state of complete crisis. It brings me so much joy that I even want to talk about it with a stuffy nose, because Stephen Miller is freaking out right now. And how could we not want to cover that? Because he went on a MAGA channel to meltdown scream and lose his mind so much that the host kept trying to interrupt him as he just yelled and broke down. As Donald Trump's term is doing the same, breaking down because of the Epstein files, we are going to get into it all. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video. And if you haven't already, and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button, because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we get to Miller's on our meltdown, which again, the host tried to save him from having, I want to start with one of the most important lies to debunk about the Epstein files that came from Brian Tyler Cohen right here, while he was on Piers Morgan.
And use code PIERS, P-I-E-R-S, for up to 40% off joggers, pants, shirts, everything. And remember to tell them that I sent you. Cozy Earth, built for real life.
Again, the files were in the possession of one person, just like they're in the possession of Pam Bondi right now, who will, of course, bend to the every whim of Donald Trump. They were in the possession of Merrick Garland. This is a guy who wouldn't even investigate Donald Trump for his efforts to overturn the 2020 election. This is somebody whose entire ethos, his entire raison d'etre in government was just to prevent the optics of politicization. Am I surprised that Merrick Garland didn't leak any of this information in the files? Absolutely not. Again, this guy didn't do this. This guy's sole focus was to not do anything political or politicized. So if you're asking why this wasn't leaked, do I think it should have been leaked? Absolutely. Do I care whether anyone from Larry Summers or Bill Clinton all the way to Donald Trump is implicated in these files? Am I looking to protect any of these people? Absolutely not. I think all of this should have been released. And by the way, so did the people that staff this very administration. Dan Bongino, Kash Patel. The fact that they now are so silent, the fact that they're perpetuating the same cover-up that they once condemned.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree. I think you make a perfectly valid point about the hypocrisy on both sides. Michael, you want to respond to that?
Yeah, hold on. Brian's whitewashing Garland a little bit too much here. He's complimenting him by pretending to insult him. So he's saying, the real problem with Merrick Garland... Well, you are, because you're saying the real problem with Merrick Garland is he didn't want to get into the fray of politics. He was so clean. He wanted to remain so above it all. This is the guy who lied about the Biden DOJ spying on Catholic parishes, going in, so much perfidy, so much deception. And I don't know, he was a complete political hack. And I think what's important to this conversation is I don't think it was Merrick Garland's pristine moral standards that prevented him from releasing this. I think that probably Piers is right. And one second, Brian. I think Piers is probably right that if the Democrats don't want to release the files, it's because the files don't look good for them either.
If you think Merrick Garland was a political hack, do you think Pam Bondi is a political hack, Michael?
I think Pam Bondi is doing a very good job as Attorney General.
Well,
I don't think she's a hack like Garland.
This woman has engaged in every political prosecution. Donald Trump literally sends his little edicts out into the ether on Truth Social. He posted what was supposed to be a DM to Pam, telling her what to do, and the second she read it, she snapped too.
The idea that somehow Democrats have put obstacles in place of the release of the Epstein files doesn't really make any sense. Especially when Republicans are now saying that some of the email dumps of the Epstein files are only being done by Democrats for political purposes. So at the same time, they want to say that Joe Biden didn't release any of the Epstein files because there was nothing in there to damage Donald Trump. But also Democrats now are releasing specific Epstein files because they're damaging to Donald Trump. None of it makes sense. The only thing that does make sense is that Ghislaine Maxwell was prosecuted and convicted under Joe Biden's administration. That is what we did to bring justice to the victims. That is what was done by Democrats. And now, where is Ghislaine Maxwell? In a 5-star resort because of Donald Trump. So there's the difference. And speaking of that, speaking of the cover-up that's been going on for a while, Jamie Raskin had the perfect analysis of how this is not just a one-term cover-up before we get to Miller's meltdown.
It'll be interesting to see those who will, stand with Trump till the end and those who will try to jump off in the nick of time. But look, this is like a deadly serious issue for the survivors, for the victims of this massive event. They want to know the truth. They have a right to truth and justice, as well as for others who haven't even come forward yet. This was a massive child sex abuse and trafficking ring, which was covered up originally by Alex Acosta, who later gets rewarded with an appointment to the Trump cabinet as Secretary of Labor, where Trump could keep a close eye on him.
And I feel like that is missing just so much from the coverage of the Epstein files. How this attempt to cover up did not just start in Donald Trump's current administration. It is why the meltdown from Stephen Miller, someone who saw the first Trump administration, is so telling in my mind. This is a cover-up that hasn't just been going on. While Donald Trump was a political figure, he was trying to distance himself from Epstein for a long time. Of course, not in any way. That meant he wasn't gonna still be friends with him. But he didn't want the blame. Donald Trump, we know, certainly doesn't want the blame. And that is why Stephen Miller was tasked with going on air to melt down over why the Democrats are lying about affordability. Sure. And how we put you in energy hell. And how we destroyed the healthcare system. It was a mess. But you just gotta watch it. 'Cause the host tried to save them.
Obamacare has led to rising premiums for Americans. Who gave us Obamacare? The Democrats. Who's fighting to defend American patients from Obamacare? Republicans and President Trump. And one more issue we have to talk about is immigration. For 4 years, the housing costs were exploding because Democrats were flooding your communities with illegal immigrants, with foreign workers, and with foreign nationals who are getting subsidized housing. President Trump, through his judge it by the results, President Trump came into office, slashed the trade deficit, trillions in new investment, critical industries back on our shores. Wages are rising for the first time in 4 years. Energy costs are the lowest they've been in 4 years. And he did it all while also implementing these tariffs. So the claims that tariffs would cause inflation have been proven flat out wrong. Democrats wrecked the economy for 4 years.
Stephen Miller is such a repugnant figure. And that is the only word that I have for Stephen Miller. He is a repugnant figure. I always talk about how like his suits are so ill-fitting. I know Stephen Miller has got plenty of money. He could afford a nicer suit. But it's just like that. Even the fabric is like, wow, I don't know Stephen Miller. Yeah, get me away. I don't like this. And they just like tries to run away from him with the host constantly interrupting as Miller was like, the Democrats, they put you in energy. Hell, the Democrats, they broke healthcare. Which is how Stephen Miller sounds to me. Or I guess it's kind of like this. It's kind of like the Democrats. He's weird. He looks gross. But the host constantly interrupting and going, stay, Stephen, could we just shut up? Please shut the fuck up. Please, Stephen, stop it. It's just so funny to me. Like, even the low rate, like, this is a non-Fox. I know, like, Fox is now competitive with all the other French MAGA outlets. But this guy, like, this isn't like primetime, million people watching. He, like, probably enjoys Stephen Miller and kind of has to cuddle his to keep him on air. And even he is just like, I can't do this. I can't do this anymore because MAGA is tired. They are worn out. They see the fracturing within the base, within the administration, within the party. And it's all because tomorrow is their day of judgment. It is the Epstein vote. And on all of that breaking news that is to come, especially with the updates that you need for tomorrow. I want to hear Ari Melber's breakdown of what is happening tomorrow with this Epstein vote and why Donald Trump is especially terrified.
On releasing the Epstein files. The vote is expected tomorrow. Anything can happen, but that's the current congressional guidance. The plan is for the House to vote on a bipartisan measure to release the Epstein files that the Trump administration, the DOJ specifically, has been holding and refusing to release. Now, I'm going to walk through this with you because I've heard a lot of stuff about the Epstein files, frankly, for years, but especially today. And so let's start with the facts. The Trump administration has now had about 300 days in office and has refused to release any of the Epstein files in that time. Trump has also spent the better part of this year refusing to release the Epstein material. The issue has come up in many ways. He has been asked about it in public. He has been pressed about it by journalists. And he has, of course, watched as the Congress moved towards wanting to do this. His DOJ can release these files within the law any time. There may be some technicalities, victims' names, grand jury material, certain things that are protected. But they have the material and they can release the bulk of it anytime, and they haven't. So we know Donald Trump opposes actually releasing the files because he has not released the files. Sometimes this stuff gets pretty simple. There's also reporting that he specifically barred his attorney general from releasing the files per Axios. But even without those internal specifics, the buck stops with the president, and he won't release the files. And that has been the state of play all year. And whether you follow the news all the time, daily news, watch TV, get it on your phone and internet, or just check in occasionally, you probably are aware of that baseline. So you say, okay, Ari, got a big vote tomorrow. What's the big deal? How did we get here? Well, just remember, because Trump is now in retreat. So there has been some spin and some other talk. But remember, the Trump secrecy, don't release the files, don't do it, whatever you do, was also backed by the co-equal branch of government where the Republicans control the House. And the Republican Speaker, Mike Johnson, didn't just oppose releasing the files, right? That's the position.
The day of judgment has come, MAGA. You are unable to escape. And thank God, we need accountability. These are people who have gone without it for so long. You know, you can say what you want about the beginning of Joe Biden's presidency and the importance of bringing the country together. But I think, and as Brian pointed out at the top of the show, part of the reason I want to play that clip, our failure to fully recognize the damage that Donald Trump had done, corroding the soul of a country, and to not try to fully root it out, but to move on and to try to put something over it. That's what we kind of did. We're like, there are these deep weeds that Donald Trump is like. That's what Donald Trump is. He's like with the weeds sprouting all across your lawn. And I feel like kind of what we did was maybe just put some more topsoil. And we're like, well, we'll just plant some, new flowers here and it'll be fine. We covered up the weeds, but the weeds are just gonna come. Their roots are deep. You gotta rip them out. It's not enough to just cover it up and move on and never say Trump's name again, which is what we did. We are like, oh, that guy, the former, and it's just like, it didn't work. People forgot about how bad he was. They forgot how disastrous his presidency was because you wouldn't mention his name, and we can't do that again. We have to be loud in talking about Donald Trump's abuses of power. We have to be loud in talking about his abuses alongside Epstein. We have to be loud in talking about these cover-up, asking dark questions, because all of the answers we've gotten lately are very dark. So we should ask, Trump kill Epstein? I don't know. But why is that outside the realm of the possibilities? Well, why? Why can't we ask that question? We can ask that question. We should ask that question. We in fact have to ask that question. If we don't confront every dark, scary, despicable, disgusting part of this administration, we may not fully recognize just how awful these people are. We might not be able to fully grapple with what it will take to move past this to actually fix our country. And so we are going to be unapologetic on this show. I promise you that even when my nose is so stuffy and I sound so bad, and I apologize that y'all had to listen to me like this today, but I'm going to take some Advil cold. And Sinus, we are going to keep fighting on the show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around at the end, drop your blue heart in the comments. Keep on fighting, y'all. Send me some tissues, and until next time, I'll see you soon.